put a drop of food coloring into this glass of water, over time the color spreads to all of the water. The dye particles go from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration. Within our cells, ions do the same thing at a microscopic level in an event called the action potential, a series of voltage changes in the neuron. Action potential helps us think, feel, move, and do basically everything. This is Mr. Neuron. He is a specialized nerve cell consisting of 3 parts: a dendrite, which receives signals, a cell body, and an axon, which transmits signals. Normally, when a neuron isn't transmitting any signals, it is at a resting potential of negative 70 millivolts. Moreover, there are more potassium ions on the inside and more sodium ions on the outside. This creates an electrochemical gradient that we can exploit. There's 3 main phases in which you can divide the action potential. First is hypopolarization. This occurs when you're presented with a stimulus, like touching this leaf. Some sodium channels in our cells open and sodium moves into our cell, leading to the membrane potential increasing. If it crosses the threshold of about negative 55 millivolts, it leads to the generation of an action potential. Step 2, depolarization. As more sodium ions flow in, more sodium channels are opened, resulting in a positive feedback loop that eventually leads to a positive membrane potential. Finally, there's repolarization. The sodium channels close and potassium channels open. The cell becomes negatively charged, returning to resting potential. This action potential continues down the axon as current flow in one area brings adjacent areas to threshold. So how does this action potential move to other neurons? This happens at a junction between the 2 neurons called a synapse. It works like a delivery system. First, the arrival of an action potential causes the opening of calcium channels that bring calcium into the cell. This leads to synaptic vesicles being released into the synaptic cleft, the gap that separates presynaptic neurons and postsynaptic neurons. Then, the neurotransmitter binds to a receptor on the postsynaptic neuron, delivering either excitatory or inhibitory signals. Neurotransmitters are then reabsorbed by the presynaptic neuron in a process called reuptake. Why does this matter? Other than basically being responsible for every thought you have and every action you do, they're also important in understanding various features of our everyday life. Diseases such as Alzheimer's, schizophrenia, Parkinson's, and more are all somewhat caused by dysfunctions in our ion channels or as a result of excess or lack of certain neurotransmitters.